Happy Monday. We are in the book of James, which is a gritty book calling us to obedience and resilience. James, the half-brother of Jesus, James, the bishop of Jerusalem, James, one of the early church martyrs. He's a guy who thought that Christianity could be true or false, but the one thing that it could not be is mildly important. And so for a while he didn't think it was true, but when he was persuaded that Jesus, his older half-brother, was in fact who he claimed to be, James went all in. So last Friday I looked at this, pushed back on this sacred secular thinking, the sacred secular divide, said that's Greek thought, not biblical thought, and talked about the fact that we're called to study the book, to meditate on it, to chew on it, to apply it. So we now push on as we're finishing up the end of chapter 1. I remember, this is 16 years ago now, when we were doing a college tour for our oldest son. And we were in Atlanta visiting Sherry's family. We decided to take advantage of the fact that we were in Atlanta to do a tour of Emory, just as sort of a, let's do a college tour and see what we learn about doing college tours. This is back when I first heard the line that sending a kid to college is like buying a new car every year and driving it off a cliff. At the time, that seemed funny. But one of the comments that a tour guide, a college student, made that stayed with me was he said that he really appreciated Emory because the professors were required to post all their old exams. And he said this because he was not in a fraternity, and consequently he thought that those people in fraternities had unfair advantages. If they had old exams, then the people in the fraternity could look at them, but there was no unfair exams at Emory. So that reminded me, actually, of the book of James, in part because James is a letter that sort of suggests that we should be getting ready for our final exam. It's a letter that talks a lot about the fact that we are accountable, we are stewards, we are expected to be good stewards with what God has entrusted to us. And so let me just say again, that our final exam, in the one sense, is there's a sense in which it's one question, right? What have we done with Christ? Have we found a way forward? Have we been forgiven? Have we been redeemed? Have we exchanged places with Jesus, received his righteousness, given him our sin? So our eternal destiny pivots about our relationship with Christ. I think that's the gospel is the good news, that we can be forgiven because God sent his son. But it's also imperative that people understand. The Bible also says a whole lot about the fact that we will be judged based on what we have done with what we've been given. And those to whom much has been given, much is expected. And that there are degrees of reward in heaven, just as there are degrees of punishment below. And so James hints at all of this. And it is a book that drives us to see the kinds of questions that we're going to be asked on that final exam. So I'm thinking now of James 1:27. This is true religion. You know, that's such a complicated term. People use it almost always in a negative sense, but it can be a positive sense. It's a positive sense here. This is true religion, acceptable to God. That's what James is saying, that we care for widows and orphans in their distress. So one of the questions is, are you caring for widows and orphans? Are you caring for the poor and oppressed? Are you caring for those who are suffering? The second way that this question, this statement by this college tour guide sort of got my attention with James is because James is very concerned with unfair advantages. He is a big advocate for justice. He does not like the advantages that flow to the rich. We will pick up on that tomorrow. Have a good day.